Welcome to Juice Crypto, where we bring you the latest insights and analysis on the world of cryptocurrency and blockchain. Today, we're diving into the world of international economics and politics as we explore the rise of the BRICS group and its potential impact on global markets and currencies. BRICS, which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is a coalition of emerging market economies that have come together to promote greater economic cooperation and growth. Since its formation in 2009, the group has grown in size and influence, representing a significant portion of the world's population and economy. In recent years, the BRICS countries have been exploring ways to reduce their dependence on the US dollar and strengthen their own currencies, leading some analysts to suggest that they could potentially challenge the dominance of the US dollar in global trade and finance. But what does this mean for the world of cryptocurrency and blockchain? Could the rise of the BRICS group lead to greater adoption of cryptocurrencies as an alternative to traditional currencies? And how might blockchain technology play a role in promoting greater economic cooperation and integration within the BRICS group? Join us as we explore these questions and more, and delve into the fascinating world of BRICS, cryptocurrencies, and blockchain. BRICS is a group of 5 major emerging economies, namely Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The group was formed to promote economic cooperation and address common challenges faced by these developing countries. It aims to create a new world economic order that is more equitable and just, and that reflects the growing economic power of the developing world. He predicted that these 5 countries would play a significant role in the global economy in the future, and that they would eventually surpass the economies of some of the world's richest countries. The group was officially established in 2006, and the first BRICS summit was held in Yekaterinburg, Russia, in 2009. South Africa joined the group in 2011, hence the group is now known as BRICS. So, why was BRICS formed? The member countries of BRICS share several common challenges, including poverty, unemployment, income inequality, and lack of access to basic services such as healthcare and education. They also face challenges related to global governance, including the unequal distribution of power in global institutions, such as the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. BRICS was formed to address these challenges and to promote economic cooperation among member countries. The group aims to leverage their collective economic and political power to achieve greater influence in the global arena. BRICS also seeks to promote a more equitable and just world economic order, in which the interests of developing countries are better represented and protected. In terms of economic growth, the BRICS countries have been some of the fastest growing economies in the world over the past 2 decades. In 2020, the combined GDP of BRICS countries was around $17.2 trillion, accounting for about 23% of the world's GDP. The group is expected to continue to grow at a faster pace than developed countries in the coming years. Now, coming to the US dollar, it's important to note that BRICS countries are not explicitly aiming to replace the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. However, the group has been actively working to diversify their foreign exchange reserves away from the US dollar and to develop their own local currency markets. This could potentially reduce the global dominance of the US dollar in the long run. One way in which BRICS countries have been working to reduce their dependence on the US dollar is through the use of bilateral currency swap agreements. These agreements allow the countries to trade with each other using their own currencies, rather than relying on the US dollar as an intermediary currency. BRICS countries have also been involved in several infrastructure and development projects in other developing countries. For instance, China has been investing heavily in infrastructure projects in Africa, including the construction of roads, railways, and ports. India has also been involved in several infrastructure and development projects in Africa and other developing countries. As for countries looking to join BRICS, there are several countries that have expressed interest in becoming members, including Indonesia, Turkey, and Egypt. However, it's important to note that joining BRICS requires meeting certain economic and political criteria, so it's not guaranteed that these countries will be admitted as members. Regarding the currency CBDC, the member countries of BRICS are still in the early stages of exploring the idea of CBDCs. However, China is already in the process of developing its own CBDC, called the digital yuan. This could potentially have implications for the global economy, as it could challenge the dominance of the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Finally, the headquarters of the BRICS Group is in Shanghai, China. The group operates through various institutions, including the New Development. Sure, I can provide more information about how BRICS plans to potentially challenge the dominance of the US dollar, and also talk about other countries that are looking to join the group. As I mentioned earlier, BRICS countries have been actively working to diversify their foreign exchange reserves away from the US dollar. One of the ways they are doing this is through the use of bilateral currency swap agreements. These agreements allow countries to trade with each other using their own currencies, rather than relying on the US dollar as an intermediary currency. This reduces their exposure to fluctuations in the value of the US dollar, and helps them to avoid US sanctions, which often rely on the use of the dollar. Another way in which BRICS countries are challenging the dominance of the US dollar is through the use of gold. Several BRICS countries, including Russia and China, have been increasing their gold reserves in recent years. This is seen as a way to diversify their reserves away from the US dollar, and to hedge against inflation and other economic risks. In addition to these efforts, BRICS countries are also exploring the idea of developing their own local currency markets. This would allow them to conduct more transactions in their own currencies, further reducing their dependence on the US dollar. Now, let's talk about other countries that are looking to join BRICS. There are several countries that have expressed interest in becoming members, including Indonesia, Turkey, and Egypt. These countries see BRICS as a platform for promoting economic cooperation and for exerting greater influence in the global arena. However, joining BRICS requires meeting certain economic and political criteria, so it's not guaranteed that these countries will be admitted as members. The criteria include having a large economy, a stable political system, and a willingness to work cooperatively with other member countries. It's worth noting that some analysts have raised concerns about the potential geopolitical implications of BRICS. Some have suggested that the group could be seen as a challenge to the existing world order, and that it could potentially lead to greater competition and conflict between developed and developing countries. Overall, BRICS represents a significant shift in the global economic landscape. The group has the potential to challenge the dominance of the US dollar and to promote greater economic cooperation among developing countries. BRICS is an acronym that stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These 5 countries are all major emerging economies with a combined GDP of over $18 trillion. They represent over 40% of the world's population, and are home to some of the world's largest and fastest growing economies. The group was formed in 2006, and its primary goal is to promote greater economic cooperation among its member countries. The group has held annual summits since 2009, where leaders from the 5 countries discuss a wide range of economic and political issues. In addition to the 5 member countries, there are several other countries that are interested in joining BRICS or in establishing closer ties with the group. Some of these countries include Indonesia, the world's 4th most populous country, has expressed interest in joining BRICS, and its president has attended several BRICS summits as a guest. Turkey, the country has been exploring the possibility of joining BRICS or forming a partnership with the group. Egypt, the country has expressed interest in joining BRICS and has participated in several BRICS events as an observer. Iran, the country has sought closer ties with BRICS countries, particularly China and Russia, as a way to counter US sanctions. Nigeria, the country has expressed interest in joining BRICS as a way to promote economic cooperation and diversify its foreign exchange reserves. Other countries that have been mentioned as potential candidates for BRICS membership include Argentina, Mexico, and Pakistan. It's worth noting that joining BRICS requires meeting certain economic and political criteria, including having a large economy, a stable political system, and a willingness to work cooperatively with other member countries. It's also important to note that some analysts have raised concerns about the potential geopolitical implications of BRICS and the possibility of greater competition and conflict between developed and developing countries. Each BRICS country has its own currency that it uses as its primary currency. However, in order to reduce their reliance on the US dollar, BRICS countries have been exploring the use of other currencies or assets to support their currencies. One of the ways in which BRICS countries are looking to reduce their dependence on the US dollar is by increasing their gold reserves. Several BRICS countries, including Russia and China, have been actively buying gold in recent years as a way to diversify their reserves away from the US dollar. Gold is seen as a store of value that is less susceptible to inflation and other economic risks. BRICS countries have also been exploring the use of their own currencies in international trade. For example, China has been promoting the use of the renminbi, RMB, as an alternative to the US dollar in trade with other countries. The RMB is now the world's fifth most used currency for international payments, up from 13th place just a decade ago. BRICS countries have also been using bilateral currency swap agreements as a way to reduce their reliance on the US dollar. These agreements allow countries to trade with each other using their own currencies, rather than using the US dollar as an intermediary currency. In addition, BRICS countries have been exploring the use of digital currencies as a way to promote greater financial inclusion and to reduce their dependence on traditional banking systems. China, for example, has been developing its own digital currency, the digital yuan, which could potentially be used in international trade. Overall, BRICS countries are exploring a variety of strategies to reduce their dependence on the US dollar and to support their own currencies. These strategies include increasing their gold reserves, promoting the use of their own currencies in international trade, using bilateral currency swap agreements, and exploring the use of digital currencies. In addition to promoting economic cooperation among its member countries, BRICS also seeks to influence global economic governance. For example, the group has been critical of the existing global financial system, which it sees as dominated by developed countries. BRICS has called for greater representation of developing countries in international financial institutions, such as the IMF and the World Bank. The BRICS New Development Bank, NDB, was established in 2014 as a way to provide financing for infrastructure and development projects in member countries and other emerging economies. The bank has an authorized capital of $100 billion and is headquartered in Shanghai, China. One of the key challenges facing BRICS is the wide diversity of its member countries. This can make it difficult to find common ground on issues such as trade, investment, and financial regulation. While BRICS countries have been exploring ways to reduce their reliance on the US dollar, the dollar remains the dominant currency in international trade and finance. The US Federal Reserve's monetary policy decisions and the strength of the US economy continue to have significant implications for the global economy, including for BRICS countries. Some analysts have raised concerns about the potential geopolitical implications of BRICS. They argue that the group could become a rival to the existing global order, potentially leading to greater conflict and competition between developed and developing countries. Finally, it's worth noting that while BRICS countries have been growing rapidly in recent years, they also face significant challenges, including corruption, inequality, and environmental degradation. Addressing these challenges will be key to ensuring long-term economic and social stability in these countries. While the BRICS countries represent a significant portion of the world's population and economy, their individual economies vary greatly in size and growth potential. For example, China's economy is much larger than those of the other BRICS countries combined. This means that China has a significant influence within the group and can sometimes dominate discussions and decision-making. While BRICS was initially seen as a group of emerging market economies, some analysts have argued that the group has now evolved into a more diverse coalition of countries with different levels of economic development. For example, while India and South Africa are still considered developing countries, Russia and China are now classified as high-income economies. In recent years, BRICS countries have become increasingly active in international affairs. For example, China has taken a more assertive stance on issues such as territorial disputes in the South China Sea, while Russia has become more involved in conflicts in Syria and Ukraine. This has led some analysts to suggest that the group could become a more influential player in global politics. While BRICS countries have been exploring ways to promote greater economic cooperation among themselves, they also face competition from other regional economic blocs, such as the European Union, ASEAN, and the Pacific Alliance. This means that BRICS countries will need to find ways to differentiate themselves and create a unique value proposition for potential partners and investors. Finally, it's worth noting that while BRICS countries have made significant progress in recent years, they still face significant challenges in areas such as infrastructure, education, and healthcare. While BRICS countries have been exploring ways to reduce their dependence on the US dollar, they are also looking to strengthen their own currencies. For example, China has been promoting the international use of its currency, the renminbi, through initiatives such as the Belt and Road Initiative and the establishment of offshore renminbi trading centers. Some analysts have argued that the BRICS countries could play a significant role in shaping the future of global trade. For example, the group has been pushing for greater South-South cooperation and has called for reforms to the World Trade Organization, WTO, to better reflect the interests of developing countries. The BRICS countries have also been exploring ways to promote greater connectivity and integration within the group. For example, there have been discussions about creating a BRICS free trade area, as well as closer collaboration in areas such as energy, technology, and agriculture. While the BRICS countries have been growing rapidly in recent years, they still face significant challenges in attracting foreign investment. For example, some investors are deterred by concerns about political stability, corruption, and the rule of law. Finally, it's worth noting that while the BRICS countries have been pursuing greater economic cooperation, they also face significant geopolitical challenges. For example, China's rising power has led to tensions with other countries in the region, while Russia's annexation of Crimea has led to increased tensions with the West. These geopolitical challenges could potentially undermine the unity and effectiveness of the BRICS group. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of BRICS and its potential impact on global economics and politics. As we've seen, the rise of this coalition of emerging market economies has the potential to shake up traditional power structures and pave the way for new opportunities in trade, investment, and cooperation. But what does this mean for the world of cryptocurrency and blockchain? As we've discussed, the BRICS countries have been exploring ways to reduce their dependence on the US dollar and strengthen their own currencies, which could lead to greater adoption of cryptocurrencies as an alternative means of payment and store of value. Moreover, the use of blockchain technology could play a significant role in promoting greater economic integration and collaboration within the BRICS group. By enabling secure and transparent transactions across borders, blockchain could help to reduce trade barriers, increase efficiency, and foster greater trust between member countries. As we look to the future, it's clear that the BRICS group will continue to be a major player on the global economic stage, with significant implications for the world of cryptocurrency and blockchain. We'll be keeping a close eye on these developments, and we hope you'll join us for future discussions on Juice Crypto. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more insights and analysis on the world of cryptocurrency and blockchain. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.